The Nintendo DS is my most played console of all time. The reason for that is that it's host of many of my favorite game series. Legend of Zelda, Super Mario, Animal Crossing, Professor Layton, Spectrobes, WarioWare, Fire Emblem, and of course, Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest 9 in particular. Every now and then I find myself just grabbing my DS and starting another round with this bad boy. And still, to this day, I'm not sick of it. Even after all these years after its release, it still remained my favorite game of all time. The Dragon Quest series is a very beloved one, though it never really exploded in terms of popularity the same way it did in Japan. It also always stood in the shadow of a much more well-known series called Final Fantasy. Dragon Quest VIII was the real first proper introduction to the whole world. Its release on the PlayStation 2 and the proper advertisement really helped the company out. With around 5 million units sold, Dragon Quest put their foot down in the West, and after its great success, people eagerly awaited what's about to come next. Lucky for Dragon Quest, the Nintendo DS just released, and it's a major success. People from all around the world had one, so Square Enix and Level 5 worked together on their next title. The next Dragon Quest would be on DS, and no one expected it to turn out the way it did. My name's Crazy Danny, and this is a video about my favorite game. Dragon Quest IX is a JRPG set in a medieval fantasy world. It was released on the 11th of July 2009 in Japan, 11th of July 2010 in North America, the 23rd of July 2010 in Europe, and the 19th of August 2010 in Australia. It was the first Dragon Quest to ever be on a handheld, and it was Square Enix and Level 5's way of celebrating the 20th anniversary of Dragon Quest. The first its name dropped was in 2006 in an interview with Square Enix. After 2 delays due to bug fixing, it finally released 3 years later in Japan. And to call it a success would be somewhat of an understatement. Not only did fans like it, but also game critics giving it an 8 or higher in the majority. It's considered one of the best DS games currently, on rank 15 of the most successful DS games out there. Right after its release in Japan, it has already sold 2.3 million units within its first 2 days. And until November of the same year, that number would go up to a whopping 4 million. After its release to the rest of the world, its sales went up to 5.3 million units, making it the best-selling entry in the series until the release of Dragon Quest XI. Up to the year of 2025, the game has sold over 7.2 million copies worldwide, making it the best-selling Dragon Quest game after 11. Yes, other games such as Dragon Quest 4 and 5 got re-releases on phones or later consoles, prompting their sales up to 7.2 or even 8 million. But Dragon Quest IX stayed only available on the DS even 15 years later after its official release. There were 5 full years between the release of 8 and 9, so people had quite the high expectations for this. Some fans of the series like to consider this the black sheep of the traditional Dragon Quest games, while others say that this is one of their favorites. It changed the classic Dragon Quest formula and decided to have a cast of blank slates as their main protagonists instead of full-fledged out characters. This may or may not appeal to everyone, but for this game, I'd say it's a perfect fit. And I will try my best to make this clear when we get to it. But for now, I'm done explaining what was going on behind the curtain. Let's pop in the cartridge and start a new adventure log. First order of business, we need to create our character. This is a first for the Dragon Quest series. I'm going with the most basic hero this world has ever seen. And right after that, the game finally begins. It starts with a beautiful vision of a starry sky. Someone is calling out for someone. We quickly find out that it was a mortal who was calling for a Celestian or an angel. This screen is not just here to make random words look pretty, it also sets the tone for what we're about to see next. Right after that, we see a village called Angel Falls. And we quickly learn that we are one of those so-called Celestrians. The person next to us is our master called Aquila. Apparently, he used to be the holy guardian of this town, but handed this duty over to us. As a guardian, it is our duty to protect the mortals. And right on time with the explanation, because this girl called Erin just happened to be on her way to Angel Falls with her granddad, and they're both about to be attacked by dangerous monsters. 2 slimes and a cruel cumber. So quickly fly down and engage onto our first battle. The battle system in Dragon Quest IX is very simple at first glance, yet it gets more and more complicated as time goes on. For now, let's take a closer look into fight. Once we're in the fight menu, we have 6 different options to choose from. Attack lets you strike your foe with whatever weapon you have equipped. Defend gets you into a defensive stand in which you take less damage, but you can't attack during this turn. Spells are all sorts of magic-based attacks using your MP. Abilities are your weapon and class abilities, I will talk more about those later. Items obviously let you use items that you have on hand. And coup de grace is a special segment I'd like to keep for later as well. All of this is, by the way, never explained by the game, but I will give the game credit for not hand-holding the player here. We defeat the monsters, therefore giving Erin and the granddad the possibility to arrive safely at Angel Falls. Erin does a quick little prayer, leaving something called benevolence, behind. Oh, also she can see us. Anyway, as we learned by Aquila, this is the crystallization of the mortal's gratitude, and it's our duty as Celestrians to offer these crystals to the world tree Yggdrasil. Nailed it. With crystal in hand, we head back to the realm of the Celestrians, the observatory. The observatory is a castle in the sky, floating high in the midst of the clouds. My initial thought when I played this for the first time was, damn, this looks like Laputa from Castle in the Sky, my favorite movie, therefore showering this game with however much love the younger version of myself could bring up. Once in the observatory, we're meant to report back to our old master Apus Mayor, who is kind of the headmaster of the whole place. He tells us to offer our crystal to the world tree, as this is our duty. As we do, the tree begins to sparkle, implying that it's about to bear fruit, which means that the duty of the Celestrians to watch over the mortals is about to end. We report back to Apus Mayor, who gives us the next task to return back to the Protectorate, meaning the world of the living, and take care of our duties there to get a more benevolence, the crystals of gratitude. We take a look around the place, talk to people and discover more about the world of the mortals and the Celestrians. None of this is forced onto the player. It's in the player's hand alone to decide how much of this he wants to suck in. And this is a joy. The game doesn't bury you in a 30-minute monologue about the world and its history. It's explained through random NPCs who you don't even need to talk to. By letting the player choose how much he wants to know about the world right now, the game communicates a certain level of respect towards the player. It values the player's time, therefore giving the player the freedom to give a shit or not give a shit at all about the world. But for me, I really like this decision. Moving on to the realm of the mortal, we get introduced to Ivor, who is the major son of Angel Falls and a complete douchebag. Even though this is a world in which higher beings most certainly exist, not everyone is on board with that. Also, another thing I really like. It doesn't just make everyone a blind follower to the whole Celestrians cult, but rather it gives the world contrast and therefore making it much more believable. Anyway, back to business. We fly around town and do certain tasks for the people in it. This farmer needs to clean his stable but fell asleep. We help him clean, and for our work he thanks us with a crystal of gratitude. He also says he will get a second horse. We will see. This lady over here lost a Bruce's ring. We talk to this dog, who I guess knows we're here, and dig at the spot the dog leads us to, indicated by the sparkle animation, and return the ring to the lady, earning us another crystal. After helping the town, it has already become night, telling us that this game has a day-night cycle and the people react according to the time. Nice! Aquila appears and gives us advice that we also need to assist lost souls on their way to the Holy Realm. We help this ghost by telling him he's dead, and with that his spirit is at peace. Simple as that. We gain another crystal, and with 3 in our hands we return to the observatory. Once there, we quickly make our way up to the World Tree, and just a little side note. If you go into the hall below the World Tree, you can actually see its roots hanging from above. Do you ever need to go here? No. But it just shows how much love and care was put into making this world feel believable without guiding the player just from one text box to another. Once on top, we offer our crystal to Yggdrasil, and then this happens. This has got to be one of the greatest introductions to a game, period. The way they made use of the 2 screens cutscene is marvelous. But it all would fall flat if there hadn't been a proper introduction to its cast or to the world they live in. Dragon Quest IX gave you fully fleshed out characters, but they are only as deep as you want them to be. All the information about the characters are mostly told through talking to other NPCs, and the game never forces any of that information on you. It establishes the basics, and that's it. Once again, it plays into that sense of freedom, making the world unique to every player, completely depending on their way of playing. Back to the game. Right after the cutscene, we get introduced to a completely new scenario. Apparently, we are now immortal. Due to us falling from heaven, we lost our wing, halo, and our magical blue shimmerish light. Basically, we're as normal as anyone else. But not normal enough for Ivor and his companion, it seems. Aaron then shows up, saves us from those ruffians, and we get to explore town a little bit. First of all, we learned that there has been an earthquake right at the same time when we crash landed onto Angel Falls. Due to that, the passage to the next city was cut off and monsters started to appear in great number. Exploring more of the town, we see some of the damage the earthquake has done by this golden bell, which was originally on top of the church. We also find out the farmer from the stable really did get a second horse. With the bell and the extra horse, the game tells us that actions have consequences, even if we're the cause or something else. We then eavesdrop on a conversation between Ivor and his father, who is prompting Ivor to get a job instead of hanging around the whole day. We also learn by talking to this old fella upstairs that you can also control your character via the stylus. A nice little addition presented in a funny way and also not mandatory. We then return to Erin's house and have a quick chat with her granddad, who tells us that due to the earthquake no customers will come to his dead son's inn. More about that later. The next morning, Ivor is visiting, offering us a deal. He wants to get rid of the landslide to be the hero who saves the town to get his father off his back, yet he needs help reaching the place first because of the increased number of monsters. We agree to the offer and head out to explore the landslide. On our way there, we discover the engine of the Starflight Express. But we're unable to do anything with it. Yet. Also, for normal mortals, it seems to be invisible. This is a nice little touch, and I guess you can see the trails. Anyway, shortly after that, we reach the landslide while a mysterious light follows us. We learn that soldiers from Stornoway have arrived to get rid of the landslide and that they're looking for a girl named Patty, who was on her way to Angel Falls. Patty doesn't ring a bell, but at least we know that the landslide will be taken care of. Back in Angel Falls, Erin almost gives in to her emotions, asking us to check for this woman named Patty. Apparently she knows her. Not being able to say no, we head out again to the road, which Patty apparently took. The Hexagon. The Hexagon is an old ruin which the villagers of Angel Falls used as the primary road before the new one we just were at was built. The passage is sealed. However, we then follow this ghost, who led us to the statue, prompting us to push a hidden button behind the statue. The path is now open. The Hexagon itself is like a little labyrinth. But every dead end offers a little reward in the form of a chest communicating to the player that exploring will be rewarded. Anyway, we then find this lady stuck below some rubble. Right as we're about to help her, a giant monster appears and it's time for our first boss fight. There isn't much of a challenge here, yet the introduction to the boss is done quite well. More about that in a bit. Also, try to remember this room, we will come back to it. With the monster defeated, we will leave the ruins and return to the village with the woman who introduced herself as Patty. Patty wanted to ask Erin's father to come back to Stornoway to take over the inn there, since it's apparently struggling making profit. However, as we already know, or as the player will definitely learn now, Erin's father is dead. And Erin took over his inn here in Angel Falls out of respect and love for her father. Patty then suggests Erin to come with her to Stornoway. Yet Erin refuses, stating that she can't leave her father's inn unattended. The reason for Patty's deal was that Erin's father was a legendary innkeeper and she assumes that Erin has the same talent as he did. Erin then leaves abruptly, being overwhelmed by the situation. We then try to follow her, but are being stopped by this ghost, the same ghost we met in the Hexagon, who introduces himself as Edwin, Erin's dead father. As we're about to start our conversation, we get interrupted by a new individual named Stella. Quick explanation about her. Stella is the skipper of the Starflight Express. She's a fancy looking fairy with quite the devilish attitude, but down in her heart she's a good person. Her personality really makes this game so much more of a joy. Her sassy comments about almost every situation is a nice contrast which the player absolutely needs. Since he's just a blank slate who's just agreeing to everything. Stella is willing to give us a lift back to the observatory if we help Edwin find the reason why he's still here and can't leave. We also get our first real tutorial message about a game mechanic. Stella is recording your game progress. To be honest, introducing your first game mechanic 90 minutes into the game has to be a world record. Anyway, Edwin tells us that the reason why he's still here must be because of his trophy, the so-called innie. We dig it up and show it to Erin. Her granddad tells us the story how Erin was very sick when she was a kid and her father brought her to Angel Falls since the water here has magical healing powers. Erin's well-being was more important to Edwin than anything else. And with that information, Erin finds the courage to honor her father by going to Stornoway with Patty. Her father's spirit is at peace and moves on with his life. But for some reason, we can't see his gratitude crystal, leaving Stellar at an unsure state if we're really a Celestrian. A few days later, the landslide is cleared and the path to Stornoway is free. Erin leaves the inn in Ivor's hands, finally giving him a job, and with that she makes her way to Stornoway, and we're on our way to the Starflight Express. Once there, Stella tries to start the engine, yet her thought is that because we don't look like a Celestrian, the Almighty doesn't accept us as one of their own, and therefore the Starflight Express won't take off. Her idea: help more people to earn more beneficence, return to the Express, and then it should have enough energy to take off. My guess is that it's powered by the beneficence, benefit. But my guess is as good as any. That leaves us with a new destination: Stornoway. Stornoway is our first big city. It offers multiple shops, a whole lot of people to interact with, hidden passages, mysteries and chests to discover. It's also the place where we're going to recruit the rest of our party members, but more about that later. For now, let's continue the story. Once we arrive in Stornoway, we immediately see Erin and Patty, who arrived just a few minutes before us. Erin takes over the inn and is ready to make her father proud. While exploring the village, the people keep on complaining that they're being threatened by the so-called White Knight. By checking the main board in town, we learn that the king is willing to give a prize to the person who defeats the threat. We head over to the castle and strike a deal with the king that we will take care of him. However, his daughter Simona is not too fond of that and storms off. Apparently the White Knight is after her. We will soon learn what's that all about. The White Knight seems like a real threat, which we're gonna need help with. Help by 3 new companions. In Dragon Quest IX, you create your very own party from scratch. You choose whichever class you like, create a fitting character, give them a name, and boom, your party is assembled. I can fully understand that some people aren't too fond of this system in comparison to classic Dragon Quest games, but personally, I'm a big fan of this. I'll talk about this in more detail later. Anyway, with our group gathered, we head out and meet the White Knight out in the field. He was expecting to meet Princess Mona here, since those were his demands. Let's just say he's not too pleased with us in exchange. And so, a fight is inevitable. The White Knight has quite the arsenal of different attacks. He can attack multiple units at once and also heal. Even though our party just assembled, we work quite well together and manage to defeat him. The White Knight falls and is left wondering why his Mona left him. Apparently he confused Princess Simona of Stornoway with the Mona he's looking for. He tells us that the earthquake woke him from his slumber and he found himself lost. Princess Simona looked identical to the Princess Mona according to him. He feels ashamed for his actions and promises to not go after Simona again. We report back to the king, who doesn't believe any of what we're saying. However, his daughter is willing to give the White Knight a chance. The White Knight told the story of his hometown Brigadoon, which is our next destination. To figure out where Brigadoon lies, we need to first talk to Simona's old maid, which now lives in Zir. Apparently there's a nursery rhyme about the White Knight. We will see what's going on with that. Once in Zir, we quickly make our way to the old maid of Simona. She sings this song about the White Knight who lived in Brigadoon. On our way there, we meet the White Knight, telling him that Brigadoon lies in the north, and together we're kind of on our way there. There's also a whole lot more going on here, but I want to keep it moving. Don't worry, I'll talk about it. Trust me. We then head north through this morbid land, before finally reaching our destination. This place is very Dark Soulsy. You basically go kinda around in a loop through forgotten ruins, discover different paths to take, paths that open shortcuts to other routes, and a whole lot of lore. Long story short, the Right Knight and Princess Mona used to live here together before the Right Knight head out to hunt down a witch named Morak. However, he never returned from his quest, being imprisoned by the witch for about 200 years. Of course, his princess is long dead and the castle lost its former glory, leaving nothing but ruins. However, Mona never stopped loving her knight, and even in death she's probably still waiting to have that promised dance as a married couple. Right after that, we find the source of all evil, Morak the witch. She was awaiting the Right Knight's return to imprison him again. She paralyzes him, getting ready to put a curse on him to keep him forever with her. However, she was not expecting that he had backup, and so we fight Morak in the name of the Right Knight. Morak isn't actually that difficult. Yet she has an attack called Unspeakable Evil, which not only hits every party member, but can also paralyze them. Of course, being a Dragon Quest IX Pro, I came well prepared and had everything under control. With Morak's defeat, the Right Knight kneels to the ground, shattered by the realization that his beloved Mona is dead. Or is she? Out of nowhere, Mona arrives with necklace, dress and everything, offering the Right Knight one final dance, as I just awkwardly watch. This seemed to heal the Right Knight's troubled heart. We learned that the princess was actually Simona, dressed up to look the part to help the Right Knight be at peace. We then learned that Simona is Mona's inheritrix and therefore being related by blood. The Right Knight thanks us and disappears. Simona apparently heard the voice of a woman saying thank you. After that, we return to Stornway, claim our reward, and with the village free from terror, we earn a whole lot of benevolence. Back at the Starflight Express, our work seems to bear fruit as the train starts to react to us entering. Yet it's still not enough. Once again, Stella pumps up our motivation, says we need to help more people, and then return with a whole lot more benevolence, basically setting us up for our next destination. Coughing Well. Right off the bat, the tone is set differently. The town feels more depressing, which mostly is communicated through the music, until we learn from the citizens that the town has been befallen by some kind of sickness. Almost every person in town is affected by this. We also see this kid playing outside on its own, only to figure out that its friend is sick and bedridden. A dark night terrorizing town? Sure, that's horrible. But having your whole family all of a sudden fall sick, you being the father and now you're the one taking care of them, it's a little different. Also, I like how the husband tries to handle everything, yet his wife is unable to sleep since he keeps on breaking plates. We talk to the mayor of the town, who is desperately trying to decipher some inscriptions about illness or something, yet he is missing the necessary understanding for this kind of topic. His son-in-law, with whom he is not really getting along, is also currently researching this sickness. He asks us to ask the son for help. So we go over to his house and meet his wife, Katharina, who seems to be coughing a lot. I wonder what that's all. We then meet her husband, Flagming, who is the son-in-law of the mayor. He says that he figured out what sickness has befallen the town. Basically, there used to be some kind of curse in the west in a ruin. The people there were able to seal it away, but due to the recent earthquake, that seal seems to be broken. So of course, not being able to stand by, we offer our help. So we collect the key for those ruins from the mayor and head over there with Flagming. Once in the ruin, we need to activate 2 light beams which shine from one mirror to another until they hit the entrance to where the seal of the sickness is supposed to be. We then enter and see the evil behind all this. The Raging Contagion. Since Flagming is busy fixing the seal, we have to keep this monstrosity occupied. Lucky for us, yeah, this party is pretty good. With the seal repaired, Flagming says the magic words and the raging contagion is locked up in this pot. Back in Coffinwell, we can see the town is doing better. Except for one person. We walk up to Flagming's house and see. Katharina has passed away. Even though the town is now healed, it doesn't seem like we got what we wanted. And Stella is not pleased. We go through the city at night and discover Katharina's ghost is still here. Maybe there is a way to fix this. What could Katharina be holding here? Katharina wants Flagming to be happy. We deliver a message from her, and Flagming now feels motivated to see if his actions actually had a positive outcome on the town. A quick round through town, people thanking Flagming. And it seems like he's feeling a little better now. And so does Katharina. Her spirit is at peace. Flagming has come to accept that he's part of a community, not just a community. And with that, Coffinwell embraces a new and healthy morning. With the town being happy, we earn our beneficence and head over to the Starflight Express. Stella quickly gets everything set and ready, and finally, we're ready to return to the observatory. Alright, let's take a quick break from all this story stuff and let me explain why I think this opening of the game is one of the best out there. Also, I want to use this break to highlight some of the things we've witnessed since we finished the first of 3 acts in which I decided to separate this video. Yeah, of course I explained the 3 acts in the beginning. What do you mean I have no idea how to plan ahead or write a script? I know exactly what I'm doing. Okay, fine. Let me explain it again. Act 1 is the beginning of the game up until this point. It features a general introduction to the game, the overall tone, battle system, and gives you an idea of what to expect. Act 2 is the hunt for the 7th fix. I'll mostly fly over those since I'm not planning on spoiling the whole game for you here, so don't worry, things will start to get on trails. Act 3 is the final act of the game. What happens there? Well, just stay tuned. But alright, let's get back to reviewing the first part. First of all, the introduction of the game is done magnificently. It sets the tone within its first few minutes. It establishes well-written characters, a believable world, and fulfills every child's dream. Be invisible. Come on, for real, who didn't dream about how cool that would be? You're invisible, but you're not playing tricks on people, you're helping them. And the people show gratitude for that. No one really knows you, but everyone knows or kind of knows that you're there. Come to think of it, isn't that also the same case with Flagming? He literally helped everyone in town, but never got that gratitude he deserved until he left his room. He never experienced gratitude, making him care so little about the town that he lives in. His main goal was to compete against his father-in-law to show that he's better than him. And he was so focused on his work, he didn't see the people who loved and cared for him. This could also be presented in the way of how people have an effect on other people, even if they don't see the outcome. Maybe I'm just reading a little bit too much into it. Okay, back to the introduction. Bit of comparison. Have you ever seen the video by Josh Strife Plays about if Cyberpunk was a good game? If not, I highly recommend checking it out. I'll leave it in the description. There's a part in the video in which he counts every text box that explains a game mechanic to you. Within its first 3 hours of gameplay, Cyberpunk bombarded you with a whopping 95 text boxes. Of course, Cyberpunk being a different game, having more mechanics and a lot of abilities to handle, it's understandable that they need to transmit a lot of information to the player. However, Dragon Quest IX, a massive JRPG with 12 different classes, different skill trees plus abilities, hundreds of different monsters, a simple yet fully fleshed out battle system, over 900 different items to equip, with some of them being able to be used on their own, manages to come by its first 3 hours with only one text box about game mechanics. Of course, I'd say this is a bit of a harsh introduction if this is your first JRPG, but I'm more than glad that this was my first one. But this is definitely not the best one to start with. Dragon Quest IX assumes you already have an idea of what the gist of a classic JRPG is. It expects you to already know, oh yes, the warrior class, now all I need is a priest to heal, maybe a wizard would be nice to balance things out. Yes, the game tells you what each class does, but to be honest, when I played this for the first time, I just wanted whatever sounded cool. So of course my party would have 2 martial artists and 1 thief. Let's just say that a game which I nowadays consider to not be grindy turned out to be a quest for the rest of my middle school time. I was able to beat the game only on level 77 with my party, but let me tell you, that felt more important than my graduation. Starting Dragon Quest IX these days might give the player a different experience than it did back in the day. A quick jump to Google and people will immediately tell you which class suits your party best. Of course, this being a classic case where you just end up digging deeper into the rabbit hole, maybe even spoiling 1 or 2 key moments for you. Also, if you already decided to have a party, only to then later figure out that you can't beat a certain boss, unless you have a classified healer, would you really go back, recruit a new companion or change its vocation, go through the exhausting process of leveling him up just to beat a certain boss? What if that happens when your party is at level 35 or something? Close to the end of the game. Starting a grind session this late in the game might be considered a tad bit annoying. But maybe I'm alone with that, let me know in the comments. Let's change topic. The way this game teaches mechanics is beautiful. Take this quest from the beginning as an example. Remember how the old lady was looking for a Bruce's ring? We venture outside, talk to this dog, and he leads us to this sparkling spot which has the ring buried. This teaches the player that this is the game's way of presenting hidden objects to you. And right outside of Angel Falls, you get the opportunity to test this mechanic 3 times, rewarding you with different items. What also helps out to give the world a bit more depth are the side quests. 120 if you're not able to set up a Wi-Fi connection with your hardware, or 184 if you manage to download the game's DLC. Side quests are shown by having a blue speech bubble instead of a generic white one. Those are not just generic side quests like raid the enemy outpost to get loot. No, these side quests teach you game mechanics. And these side quests help you understand more about the game. Here are 2 examples. In Angel Falls, you meet this girl, which tells you she wants Tangleweb. She explains how it can be found at sparkly spots on the ground just east of town. The exact same mechanic which the dog teached us, yet this time with a bit more explanation. We gather the Tangleweb and return to the girl, giving us not experience points or money, but another item to use. Also, I love how her name is Questel and the name of the quest is One Good Turn. Because you literally just turn to talk to her and turn around to get the Tangleweb for her. It has no reason being this deep as a first quest. The balance in this game has been pretty good so far. I cannot deny that this game definitely requires a little bit of grind here and there, but it never asks much of you. The game strikes a very fine balance, so you never feel too under or over leveled. It straight up tells you when you're too strong for an area, by having the monsters run away from you. And when you're too weak for an area, you'll know quickly. I'd also say that the equipment you buy from shops definitely helps out. And if the shops don't do it for you, there is always alchemy. Alchemy is this game's way of crafting. You just combine different items and boom, you get an upgraded version or even a better sword or a new suit of armor. You can find recipes hidden throughout the world, telling you exactly what you need to get whatever item. Or you could be an absolute maniac and try your luck by combining whatever items together and see what you'll get. If you don't get anything out of it, your used items will be destroyed. But that's what the wiki is for. Alchemy is definitely a part of the game which I consider one of the grindiest, but I'd argue that it's actually necessary to complete the game. Another quick side note. Remember in the hexagon, yes I said it correctly, how I said that the final boss room was important? That's because we previously learned that the people use this road to travel from Stornway to Angel Falls. And if you enter the hexagon from the other side, you can see how this road was connected. Doesn't seem like much, but it makes the world a whole lot more believable. By the way, you can not just see dead people, but also dead animals. I wonder if you can help them. If you try to teleport in a building, you bump your head. Did you know the pony of the right knight stays in Stornway once he's free? This guy here wants to move his house by pushing it. What's behind that purple door in Random Inn? Who is this ghost lady and who is she looking for? This game truly feels like a big adventure. The main story really blew my mind as a kid, but the world feels so much more lived in by all its characters, side stories, quests, hidden gimmicks, points of interest, and its overall believability. I'll say that the decision to have a silent party with hollow characters gives the rest of the game so much more room to breathe and to establish well-written characters and cities. It makes every city feel unique, and even though they all offer the same at their core, I don't think I would care that much about the world if I had a party of 4 members in which each of their backstories is more interesting than a plague affecting a whole town. Having a blank slate party is really one of the greatest strengths of this game, and I would not consider it a flaw. Alright, let's get back to the story. We return to the observatory, which is now completely devastated by the previous attack, and thank youre for a safe return. I guess she helped in some way, but she also shows us our next destination. To hunt the 7 figs, which went lost at the beginning, and to safely return them to the observatory, therefore offering salvation. Seems like a bit of a stretch, but we're up for the task. The figs apparently hold the power of salvation for the Protectorate and the observatory. What this exactly means is unsure. All we know is that the figs came from Yggdrasil and the tree asked us to bring them back. I guess by doing that we've officially done our duty as Celestians and can therefore leave the mortals in the Protectorate alone. Which makes even less sense, since the Protectorate just got attacked, we still have no clue of who or what did it, and now a lot of Celestians went down to the Protectorate to search for the figs, but we're the only ones who've returned so far. I assume that Apus Mayor thinks that by gathering the figs we will also have the power to solve all the problems in the world, but since this is never explained, I guess we're left in the dark. For now, let's return to the Protectorate and fulfill our duty. Also, I wonder what's up with that grave. Back in the world of the living, we walk over to the everything new Abbey and find out that the abt has gone missing after eating a mysterious shiny fruit. We follow his traces, take care of the boss and collect our first fig. Back in the Abbey we can now change our vocation, which means you can change the class of any of your companions including yourself, which therefore sets them back to level 1. And this is where the true beauty of the beautiful broken vocation system comes to shine. Also, this is the part in which I'll finally talk about skills. Alright. So when you level up you gain skill points. You can then decide to use those skill points on any of your available skills depending on what class you have. Invest a certain amount and you will learn a new ability. If you change your vocations from, let's say, Minstrel to Warrior, you will still keep the abilities you learned as a Minstrel and you'll be able to use them while having the Warrior's vocation. Sounds reasonable so far, right? Well, let's talk about those. Abilities which increase your natural stats. Basically all this does is increase your stats of whichever stat you unlocked. As an example, when I change my class to Warrior and I haven't spent a single skill point yet, the natural charm of a Warrior would be at 4. Now if I were to spend my skill points as a Minstrel and unlock increase natural charm by 30, I would therefore not just increase the charm of the Minstrel by 30, but also of every other class that I switch to. So you could switch to every class, level them up, increase their level high enough to unlock a new natural stat ability and boom, you have basically become a one-man party. I love this system. It sure as hell breaks the game to a certain degree, but only if you keep on grinding for God knows how many hours. Yet it keeps the experience of the game fresh. I remember a run of the game in which I played only with one person through the game and it was so much fun seeing how easy it was to defeat certain bosses against who I usually struggle a lot, just because I used those natural abilities. So that's the skill system. Beautiful, bombastic, bananas. So let's continue hunting down those figs. We then reach a town just south of the Abbey called Port Leviathan. Yeah. We discover this girl, which can summon Leviathan, a giant whale who showers the town with fish. The daughter feels guilty for doing that, the major is planning to adapt her, which always felt super random to me. The big whale shows up and we have to save the day. Once defeated, we get our second fig and the town learns to start taking care of its own. We then travel east over the ocean. This is nice. After that little segment, we reach the town on the other side of the ocean, Slurry Quay. It's nothing more than a port. We literally just rush through and head to the next big city. Doorbridge is like a big hideout for all the fiends in the world. Not wanting to get robbed, we make it our goal not to stay for too long. Also, there's nothing story-wise going on here, so let me just give you a brief introduction to what we did. We talked to this guy about mini-medals, earning us some rewards like the Thieves Key, which gives us the possibility to open all sorts of chests around the world. Then out of nowhere, this random ghost lady walks by us and we continue our adventure further down the road, leading us to quite the mysterious place. Xerox is the spitting image of Seer, the city in which we were in the beginning of the game. Everything here is made of rocks. Not just random statues, but also the people in this town. One of the houses even has an interior which we can explore. Yet the exploring gets interrupted by Garth Goyle, a giant-ass gargoyle who is usually defeated without much of a fight. But for whatever reason, this bastard just wiped the floor with me. This has never happened before, and I take that personal since this guy never posed a problem. After a quick grind session involving some class changing, we repeat the fight, and this time it was smooth sailing. We then collect our third fig, and talking about sailing, we just entered the next arc. Bloomingdale is one of the few towns with an actual port. Look and behold, they even have a boat to give away at the moment. Talking to the owner of the boat, this young rich girl called Marion, she gets angry and kicks everyone out of the mansion for no specific reason. When we try to talk to her again, she's been kidnapped. We search through her room and discover a back garden with graves for her parents and her best friend. We then follow the lead of the letter left by the kidnappers and meet them in the Bat Cave. The bad guys then freak out since the girl disappeared. We venture deeper into the cave and finally find Marion. Yet we avenge Marion and his spirit is at peace. Or something like that. Anyway, as we return to Bloomingdale, we see at one of the graves a puppet of Marion lying around, with a fig in hand. Therefore, giving us our fourth one. Then the nanny of Marion shows up, takes the puppet and puts her in Marion's room, which concludes the Bloomingdale arc. As a reward, we also get her ship, sail out into the ocean and can leave the town behind. And there was definitely nothing weird going on in this town. A quick travel over the ocean with our new boat, which I'll touch upon later, leads us to a continent called Just Desert, and in the heart of it all lies the kingdom of Gleba. Gleba is a typical desert city. It's got a market, belly dancers and problems with water. Yet this time it's not just due to the heat, but of the current queen, Queen Voluptua. She's a spoiled brat with no regard for her employers or the rest of her population. The only thing she seems to care about is her little golden lizard, which is getting equally spoiled by her. Also, she's in possession of one of the golden figs. As you might suspect, she is of course not giving it to us, but rather use it in her bath. So we do a mission impossible without the rope and gracefully break our knees. Her lizard, however, ate one part of the sliced up fruit, turns into a dragon daddy and kidnaps the princess. Of course, seeing our chance of rescuing a princess in need, we follow them down to the sewers. Following the trail, we find them, as the dragon daddy is about to propose, I suppose. We're pulling a Shrek here. I object! And interrupt this unholy act of love. Once back to his senses, the maiden Voluptua comes and tells the queen that she cares about her, making the dragon daddy realize that his love has people around her who care for her. With that realization, he transforms back to his original form and gives us our fifth fig. Our last two destinations lie within the north. Our first one to arrive at is Swinedimple's Academy. As we arrive, we're taken for a detective, which was hired by the headmaster of the school. Some of the students have gone missing and the headmaster is in dire need of help to find them. Apparently there's some kind of local rumor going around that the ghost of the school comes alive when you touch the Celestian statue's head. So some students tried it. The ghost appears and kidnaps another kid. We follow them down into what seems to be a long forgotten part of the school. The whole place is run down, and deep within lies a classroom in which the kidnapped students are being held captive. We arrive and teach the evil ghost a lesson. The ghost turns out to be Sir Sternivus Swinedimple, founder of the Swinedimple Academy. Apparently someone offered a fig to his grave, his ghost somehow consumed it and manifested his dreams of teaching again to ensure the students get a proper education. Once his mind is at ease, he can finally rest in peace and the school can return to its regular schedule. We get our reward from the headmaster and continue our hunt for the last and final fig. With the 6th fig in our possession, we head towards our last destination, Bazurek. This nomadic tribe settled down in the middle of the Ylgusard Plains. This place is apparently threatened by a monster, as we learn by the tribe's chief. We scare the baboon, which turns out to be the monster, away, therefore gaining the respect of the town. The chief sends his son off to the hunting field. We follow him and discover that he's plotting to unveil the chief's right-hand follower Sarah's true form. We gather the necessary ingredients and with everything prepared, we head over to Bazurek to help Bazurek and Sarah's charade. Once Bazurek showers Sarah in the thick white juice of friendship, her true form is revealed, and to everyone's surprise, it turns out to be Lars. Lars then proceeds harassing the tribe before we step in to stop her. Once defeated, she drops a fig, and with that we've officially collected all the necessary figs. Bazurek takes over the tribe, and the world is once again at peace. We return to the All Trades Abbey and head back to the observatory. On our way there, we encounter someone familiar. We're getting ripped of all our figs, and one blast attack by the dragon Barbarous later, we get sent into a sea of clouds. And the fate of our hero becomes unknown. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're officially done with the second act of this video. What we're gonna do now is do a quick review about the hunt of the 7 figs. I didn't do it before because I don't want to spoil the whole game for people who might not have played it even today. So, as you might suspect, this is the spoiler section. If you don't want to hear anything about it, go to here. I'll simply do a quick review about every town that we've visited for the hunt of the 7 figs. I won't go into much detail, but I don't feel like speedrunning through the towns feels correct. Let's start with the Old Trades Abbey, and yes, I'm sorry that I pronounced it the Everything New Abbey before. This is the first time I'm playing it in a different language. If I'm pronouncing things not exactly correct, I hereby apologize. So, let's start. Old Trades Abbey. To put this place here is actually fucking clever, because at this point you're probably not too attached to your party yet, and you're willing to maybe change a class here and there. And also considering, hey, I learned all these skill points from my previous class, and I can take them over to my next one as well. This seems like a perfect fit for this position. The story here is kind of whatever, but I feel like this was never the main focus of the Old Trades Abbey. I feel like they focused mostly on giving you new side quests and new levels, new jobs to discover and stuff like that. Seems pretty awesome to me. The next one, Laughin'. I guess it's Laughin', I'm not really sure. It feels a bit more dry in comparison, even though they're next to the sea. This place mostly exists because of 2 reasons. The story that is, well, I don't even know what to say about the story. It feels not fleshed out enough to really properly hit. But yeah, it happens. You get a fig, and then you sail. The sailing is cool, because it foreshadows how you will end up getting a boat and be able to sail wherever you want. This is a nice taste. The next town, however, Slurry Quay, is... I don't know, it's always confusing to me. How can this be a town? It has barely anything. It has like a saving point, an inn, and 2 red chests. I guess it has also this shop, but... like... who really stays here? There is nothing going on. The next town, however, Doorbridge, also is a bit weird to me, because consider how big this place is. I don't know, doesn't this seem like a bit of like missed potential? This is the city of thieves. It has the mini medals by this pirate dude here, underground bath. Like, why isn't there like some kind of underground casino or like hidden thief guild or something like that? And maybe they were able to, we stole this fig from this one person, and now there's this golden fig and it will be a prize in a battle or whatever, and we have to battle through the arena or something to get it. Or maybe we have to steal it, have like some kind of sneak section. Personally, I guess it would have been too much to add something like sneak or arena. Maybe they didn't have enough space left on the cartridge to do all this. Maybe they would have had it if they got rid of Slurry Quay and just like said, this is Stourbridge's port or something. But who the hell am I to judge? I have no idea how programming works. Still, it just feels like missed potential to me, because the next place, Xerox, it has a fig and a treasure map. A treasure map. How come that the treasure map is not in the city of thieves? Or the pirate gives you one, you know, the guys that always sail and look for treasure and stuff? He doesn't have a treasure map? I don't even know what to say. But it is fine, it's not the end of the world. I'm not here to complain about it. I just feel like, why did they do it? Why did they do it that way? Still, I guess it's because of hardware limitation, but I could be completely wrong here. Bloomingdale, however, is probably my most favorite part of the 7th Fix hunt. The story is... It's way too dark in my opinion for the overall tone of the game. Like, it's overall more cheerful and happy, and out of nowhere comes the story about, hey, there is this sick girl, she's about to die. She has a life-sized puppet of herself, who is also her best friend, and instead of wishing for her own health, she wishes for her puppet to come alive, and then the puppet takes over her. This is fucking insane. And then the puppet made a grave for her, and then the puppet at the end loses its life, however you want to call it, and then just ends up laying on the bed. This feels way too dark for this game. But it's presented in such a like happy, charming, funny, goofy way. Not goofy, but it's presented in a way that you can't take it too serious, but you can definitely see, okay, there's something deeper going on here. I just like the overall presentation of it all. And the town itself, it looks very nice. It has a nice contrast to it. This is probably my favorite town. Maybe Stornway, but Bloomingdale is probably one of my favorite ones. Gleba, in contrast, feels almost like a filler to me, to be honest. The story is, it's fine. Oh, it's the evil princess of the town, of the castle, she takes the water away. Oh no, how bad. But it's nothing too original. At least the dragon daddy like kidnaps her and does something with her. I never know. Overall, I'd say the main focus of this town was probably the Mirage Mahal itself, the castle. Like, it looks fucking awesome. The waterfall inside, the castle garden. All of this looks super nice. And I'd say they probably put most of their attention in making this castle feel alive without focusing too much on the story that's happening here, because the story is just girl gets kidnapped, you saved her, that's it. But it depends on how you feel about it. I also want to point out, I really like this like hidden section, like the sewers of the castle, and then there's like a hidden graveyard. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, maybe I'll find something in the wiki, but this is still like an awesome way to introduce all of this stuff. It gives the place a bit more of a darker side than it probably doesn't have, but still. Swine Dimple's Academy is a really nice contrast to Gleba. You know, changing from the super hot scorching desert to the snow biome. Also the only like snow biome in the whole game, which is fine. I'm not a big fan of snow biomes myself, but it is fine that it's now. I cannot say much about this part actually. I'd say that it is fine. Of course, there's the super obvious Hogwarts reference. I have no idea if this is on purpose, that it's like Hogwarts. But, of course, this goes too deep into the rabbit hole, I'd say. I couldn't find anything online, like, why is it called that? And people go like, yeah, probably just a coincidence. I can maybe kind of believe that the East doesn't really know about shit like Harry Potter. But this is too on the nose to be a coincidence. Maybe that's just me thinking. But let's just say, yes, a place called Swine Dimple's Academy is real. And yes, it can hurt you. Batsurik is always my last destination. I know that there are some people who are saying, no, Swine Temple's Academy is supposed to be the last one. Personally, it depends on whoever you want to play. You could also make Gleba your last town if you want to. But if you do that, I consider you an absolute maniac. No, Batsurik is always my last destination because it fits into this theme of traveling. Like, yes, you're getting yourself ready to travel back to the observatory. You're, of course, coming to a town with a nomadic tribe that is used to traveling the whole time. I'm not exactly sure how high the producers were when they came up with all these names, because Jesus fucking Christ. The overall plot, I'd say, goes by quite quick. At least in the end, you got some kind of explanation by Lars, like, oh, I found this fig and I wanted to be here and stuff. I don't even know, but yeah, it's fine. It's at this point, it's probably just like, hey, we need to gather the last fig and then let's go home. And that's what this feels like to me. It's like, hey, grab the last fig and we're off to go. Also, there's a priest that says yo. I like that. With the 7 figs done, let me just quickly talk about sailing in this game. Sailing is awesome. It is such a nice feeling of freedom because you can simply go wherever you want. There are some places that are like cut off, but you could, as an example, go back to Stornway. You could travel to the Old Trades Abbey, Gleba. You have so many places to discover. It feels so nice. And the music and the overall atmosphere, it just fits so perfectly. And the boat itself, man, everything here is fleshed out. The only thing that's not here is actual flesh, because there's no other person on the ship except you and your party. This is maybe a point where I'd say there's missing potential. How awesome would it have been if there was an actual crew going around here doing all sorts of shit? Or what if you were able to see your party members, like each one has their own room and the warrior is like always sleeping and you see the wizard like reading books and I don't fucking know, like another minstrel like training shit, I don't care, but something would have been nice. Still, considering that it was all done on the Nintendo DS, which isn't really the most powerful hardware, I'm more than willing to glance over this. The betrayal by Quilla in the game really stuck with me. I'd say this is done quite well. I also really appreciate the foreshadowing this game does. Like, oh, you cannot attack Aquila, I wonder if that will come to play later again and stuff like that. I'd say in a game that presents itself in such a simple way the whole time, a plot twist like this really works well. And I doubt anyone was expecting that the first time you played it. Okay, let's continue the story. We find ourselves in a bed. It's actually in a city called Wormwood Creek. Next to us is a kid named Wallace. The mayor of the town comes into the room and tells us that we have a meeting tonight discussing our current situation. Apparently, as we fell from heaven, the huge dragon Barbarous was flying over town. People assume that we work together with the dragon. Therefore, we're being cast out of town. As we wander around the empty land, we meet the ghost girl named Serena? Anyway, she tells us her backstory and we learn about her goal, that she's actually looking for another Celestian called Corvus. We ask her for help. She opens a path to the so-called bow hole. We travel through this ancient ruin, grab the bow at the end of the tunnel with, I guess, a boss fight in between. That was out of nowhere. We shoot an arrow towards the sun and create a bridge of light. However that is possible is beyond me, but I'm fine with it. People of Wormwood Creek come to thank us and are now happy that we are here, and we head to the next town. The next city is high up in the mountains. It's called Up Over. This city is apparently protected by Gregnar, a mysterious man we have not met yet. We ask for an audience with him, but learn he lives on top of the mountain. We hike up there and meet him, but he's actually a dragon. He lived for over 300 years and was able to defeat the dragon Barbarous 300 years ago. However, it seems that he can smell the stench of the Giddish Empire on us and starts to attack us. We show him who's boss, but as we're about to defeat him, this old lady stops us. However, she was able to get up here and tells us that we're not allowed to kill him. The dragon then is pissed and sends us off. As we return to Up Over, the city is being attacked by the Giddish Empire. We take care of the scoundrels, and the dragon Gregnal is actually happy that we were able to defend his city. He grants us another audience with him. He gives us a suit of armor as a reward, I suppose, and tells us to climb onto his back, because as we do, this happens. We come to our senses in front of a pig named Lieutenant Gorhamhawk. Apparently, we're in a prison called the Gortress. As it seems, we're stripped of all our belongings. We feel super weak and lost in this moment. There is no way of fighting back with just our bare fist. A buff guy named Sterling shows us around. We see all sorts of torture devices as well as graves. And also these barriers. Apparently, you cannot pass through those. But for whatever reason, as we try to go through, nothing happens, since we still have the seal of the Giddish Empire with us, which we got from Gregnal. Don't ask me why this makes sense. And then I went to check my inventory. What is going on? I don't like comparing things, but 14 years before this game was released, a game called Chrono Trigger was released, and they also had like some kind of escape prison sequence, and you actually had to sneak around, avoid guards, and grab your equipment first before you were able to fight back. Here, basically everything is just unequipped. I'm actually wondering, what if you have like cursed items on you. Will they also be able to unequip those? That would have been fucking amazing to figure out. Anyway, as it turns out, you can just equip all your stuff and walk around with your full set of armor and no one seems to care. This is very bad. I love this game, but every time I play this part I'm like, yeah, something's missing here, isn't it? Anyway, later on the prisoners start a coup to take over the prison. We're being told to grab all our stuff, gather our friends and then come back here to defeat the lieutenant of this prison. We do as we're told, come back and take care of Lieutenant Gorham Hawk. Sterling returns his magical whistle from one of the chests, head outside, blew into it, and for whatever reason he can call the Starflight Express. And with its help, we escape and return to the observatory. Once there, we tell Apis Maya about Aquila's betrayal. According to Apis Maya, Aquila actually returned here and brought the fix instead of us to him. Apis Maya suggests that we should seek more answers by heading to the realm of the Almighty. It's a place even higher than the observatory. So we jump into our Starflight Express of absolute mass destruction and head on over to the realm of the Almighty. It's a magical land with floating islands and bridges out of rainbows. As we explore the place, we find this empty throne room, which actually seems to have been attacked by something or someone. Turns out, this is from the early laser beam mass destruction attack from the very beginning. We offer our fix in this place, and the magic voice teleports us back to the observatory. Turns out, Zenus, the god of the whole universe I suppose, wanted to destroy the realm of the mortals. He was fed up with the mortals not being helpful and thankful and whatnot, and being full of hatred and whatnot. His daughter, Celestria, believes in the mortals. She turned herself into this magical tree called the youre, and said if the people turn out to be happy and thankful one day, she will return to her original form. Zenus then created the Celestians to watch over her, get her benevolence, and therefore have the tree bloom figs once their duty is fulfilled and the people are actually filled with happiness and gratefulness. As it turns out, with us offering the figs, this seems to almost be complete. However, turns out there's still the palace of the Giddish Empire. The only person to stop the source of all evil is, I guess, us. So Celestria tells us our last and final goal. Head to the palace of the Giddish Empire. We arrive at the front entrance of the palace of the Giddish Empire. It's surrounded by some kind of dark power. Celestria, the daughter of God himself, is able to give us the smallest entrance in the history. Jesus Christ. As soon as we arrive, we are greeted by Sir Lieutenant Hootingham. There's not much to say about the fight with him. He got 2 guards that sometimes buff up his defense, but all in all, I just really like his death animation. Ooh! Deeper inside the palace, we find the next end boss. Gorsby Purvis, I hope it's pronounced like this. He's a cat samurai, he's able to attack twice, he does critical damage, and he's the last end boss before we meet the real end boss of the castle itself. We swiftly take care of him, and Spring was also able to dodge one of his critical strikes marvelously. We head inside the throne room. Inside, we see Aquila, and we learn that he was actually working as a double agent for us. He did all this because his end goal was to take care of Lord King Godwin himself. However, he's not strong enough and gets bitch-slapped. We jump in for the rescue. King Godwin is an absolute fucking annoying piece of shit. He has this spell called Disruptive Wave, which basically nullifies all of our status effects. Which means every time we had built up tension and increased attack damage, he just nullified it back to 0. So this fight took almost like 10 minutes. Also sometimes it feels like playing dodgeball, but I'm not really into it. After about 10 minutes of constant back and forth, we were able to finally deliver the finishing blow. But second phase, Godwin transforms into the snake lizard skeleton demon of mass destruction. Yet for whatever reason this fight was much easier than the previous one. Anyway, we let our guard down and Godwin uses this opportunity to take our lives. However, Aquila jumps in, sacrifices himself, so we may live. With his last bit of strength, he tells us to free the Celestians who are kept prisoners, which also includes his teacher. We hurry deeper into the previously closed off area of the castle and free our first Celestians. The last one seems to be locked up even further inward. We continue on the path until we reach someone locked up in chains. He looks ominous, yet we have no reason to be scared. We take the chains off of him as he talks about ending the world, hatred and whatnot. I don't know, I guess we don't really care at this point, but who would have thought? The person locked up here is Aquila's previous teacher, Corvus, and it turns out he was locked up in here for the last 300 years. And he seems a bit changed, because all of a sudden, yeah, he feels like attacking, I guess. But since he's still a Celestian in his heart, we're not able to attack him due to the law of the Celestians. So we get completely wiped out. Once we're defeated, he summons his baby dragon Barbarous and sets off to the realm of the Almighty. Shortly after that, Serena arrives. Just short, excuse me girl, you just missed him. We learn about her backstory. Long story short, Corvus was hurt badly. Serena gave him a sleeping potion which she told him was special medicine, but she tried to trick him because she didn't want him to get hurt. The Giddish Empire came, took the sleeping Corvus away, and after that Serena was killed. And now she, as a wandering spirit, tries to look for him to clean up this mess she created. She then leaves, I don't know why. With the Celestians freed, we head on back to the observatory. Celestra is able to create another fig from the gratitude we've gathered all around the world. With this fig, we're able to make a wish. Celestra tells us to wish to become mortal so that the law of the Celestians no longer work on us. Without any hesitation, and since we didn't have second breakfast yet, we eat the golden fig, become mortal, and without any hesitation, we head towards the realm of the mighty. Corvus has already transformed this place to a much darker version. There's a giant tree now, and on top of the tree is a throne room, and there Corvus is waiting for us. So our goal is to reach him and deal with him. As we make our way through this evil labyrinth, we encounter 3 familiar faces: pig, owl and cat. And as quickly as they appear, they also disappear. Once on top, we're finally able to confront Corvus. For whatever reason, he barely poses a threat. Even on defeat, you can't shake the feeling that this wasn't everything, but you're led into a false sense of security. Corvus then transforms and locks himself away in his own little cocoon. As we try to follow him, we fall down now for the 4th time in this game. It's the 4th time that we've fallen from a higher place. But who am I to judge? Anyway, as we try to confront Corvus for the 2nd time, he summons Barbarous. So first of all, we have to take care of him. Let's just say this didn't really go as planned, but thank God, Summer was able to pull it off. With Barbarous defeated, there's only Corvus left. We walk up to him, destroy his little egg, and boy, oh boy. But we didn't give up hope, because on the 4th attempt, we finally managed to knock some sense into him. The fight is finally over. Nonetheless, Corvus still intends to destroy everything in this world. And as he's about to release his power, Serena jumps in and saves the day. She gets close to Corvus and explains everything that happened. She searched for him for the last 300 years. It was a huge misunderstanding, everything that happened. It wasn't planned for him to be locked up, etc, etc. Anyway, this seems to have healed Corvus's darkened heart. Corvus returns to his normal form. He apologizes to Serena, and the 2 of them are off into the sky and give us a golden shower. Celestia returns to her goddess form, and with the power she has, she's able to heal the realm of the mighty back to its original form. She tells us that the duty of the Celestians is over, and that the Celestians will now go on and disappear. But we have a bigger task, because we are supposed to stay in the realm of the mortal and watch over them. She then sends us off with the Starflight Express, the observatory disappears, and the credits start to roll. Seeing the credits always makes me a bit emotional, but I have to be honest, this is my favorite ending of a game. You get to see all the different places you've been to, the people you've helped, the problems you've solved. Everyone seems to be getting along, and everyone is working together towards a bright future. It's a nice way to remind the player what they've been through and what they've accomplished. It really makes you feel like Spider-Man, like this word matters and that everything you've done up until now wasn't for nothing. Every time you choose to help a person, that had a consequence of a positive outcome in the end. And personally, I feel like that is the core message of the game. To help each other in time of need. And I know it sounds cheesy, but hear me out. It was never our goal to kill Corvus. Celestia made this clear when she said that even he can still be saved. Our goal was to help him, to heal his darkened heart. And in the end, we were basically just stalling for time until Serena came and saved the day. So what really put all this to an end was an honest intent to save someone, to help someone. And don't we all need someone in our life who breaks our walls which we created ourselves to show us the beauty that lies in this world? Because no matter how dark and bleak everything may look, there is some good in this world.
And it's worth fighting for.
Thank you for watching.